I consider myself an 80s baby. Now, some might dispute this, and they'll say in order to be an 80s baby, you have to have been born in the 80s. But I euphemistically think of the fact that in order to be a baby of any decade, you have to be raised in that decade. So I kind of feel like the Jay-Z lyric when he says, niggas want to bring the 80s back. That's okay, that's where they made me at. The 80s made me. Now, I wasn't a budding rap star, a drug mogul. I wasn't hit by the crack epidemic, but I was shaped by the culture of the 80s. To this day, my top 3 favorite cartoons of all time are Thundercats, Transformers, and He-Man. And if you ask anybody who was raised in the 80s, I bet you, even now, in their top 5, at least 1 or 2 of those cartoons will exist. The other thing about the 80s that shaped me, or that I took from it, was the emergence of video games. Video games now are ubiquitous. You know, we got them on our phone, you have them in your car, you have them on the airplane. I mean, everywhere you go, you got a video game of some sort. But then, in the 80s, video games were found in really local, really specific spaces. So you had just the big arcade where, like, you know, teenagers went, they smoked weed, they played around, you had the pinball machines and everything. You had Chuck E. Cheese, which is probably where I was, because I wasn't a teenager at this time. So Chuck E. Cheese, you had your Froggers, your Dig Dugs, all those type of games. Before Chuck E. Cheese got really lame and whack, which it really is now. At least to me. And then those people who were lucky enough to have an Atari. We had an Atari. And when my dad first got the Atari, he spent like literally hours, like 12 hours on end trying to beat Pac-Man. So I guess it kind of, you know, was in my blood. So around 85, 86, the Nintendo, the NES system hit. And like everybody else who was around, I lost my shit. I wanted one. I wanted the controller. I wanted everything. So I secretly hoped that during Christmas during that year, 85, 86, I would get one. I had a great Christmas, got tons of games, got basketballs, got a lot of different things, but I didn't get the NES, the Nintendo system that I wanted. And I knew it would have been a bit of an asshole to me for me to be sad, so I outwardly didn't show it, but I was really disappointed that I didn't get it. So I kind of, and then come to find out, like, everybody else had one. Maybe not, not all of them, but like at least 80% of my friends actually got the Nintendo system. So I played with them, but I was still, you know, secretly disappointed I never got one. Fast forward, January rolls around, we get back to school, and one of the ways we raised money in the 80s, and still now, but one of the ways we raised money specifically was selling candy. I don't know if you guys remember the candy fundraiser. Selling chocolate, that's right. We didn't sell Helen Grace or Russell Stover. We sold World's Finest. So we had World's Finest, either chocolate with almond, or chocolate crisp, right? And they came in those little bars that looked like silver little bars wrapped from Fort Knox. So it was really cool. And typically, depending on how many you sold, and the way to motivate you, you know, the more you sold, the more gifts you got or the prizes you got. So like at 100, it was like, you know, a ball set. At like 200, it was like an encyclopedia set, which for an 8-year-old kid, it's a shitty-ass gift to get, you know, encyclopedia set, 200 bars. So at 500, you got a bike. Well, this year, at 1,000, you got the NES system, which like blew my mind. And I don't mean just anyone, it was the deluxe system. So it was 2 controllers, Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, The Gun, and it had the little Rob, the robot. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but Rob the Rob, he's like a, yeah, he was like a little miniature Johnny Five. And if you guys know Johnny Five from Short Circuit, right? So you could have your own. And it was just dope. I was like, damn, I wanted it for myself because I wanted to play myself, but then I also wanted to stun on everybody else who had got one. Like, yeah, y'all got y'all little 1 controller, but I got 2 controllers and a robot. What? But in order to do that, you had to sell 1,000 bars of candy. The record at the school was like 1,200 something. And I had only sold like 100 max in my lifetime. And typically it wasn't me. I would bring the little slip home, give it to my mom and my dad. My mom worked in a hospital. My dad worked at the post office. Plenty of people to hit up. They come back, 50 bars a piece. I got 100. I did my due diligence. I got my little basketballs, and I was good. But now I needed to sell at least 1,000, right? At least 1,000 just to get this in Nintendo. And I didn't know how to do it. I was a little at a blank. So after school one day, I'm sitting at my grandmother's table, and my uncle's sitting across from me. I got my first box of chocolates. We're sitting there talking, and I go to the bathroom. And when I come back, he's like going through 3 bars. And it's only been 5 minutes, but he's going like 3 bars of candy. He looks like a raccoon in a trash can. He's going 3 bars of candy. And I'm like, damn. And it dawns on me, this is what I need. I need this person right here to sell candy to. My uncle's a little overweight, had a little self-esteem issues, but he was that person. And I knew he also can get me to other people like him because he was the manager of a community center that actually did support groups. So they had like Alcoholics Anonymous, they had like Chocoholics Anonymous, Grief Support System, and Overeaters Anonymous. And I figured I could ask him to help me sell chocolate there. But I asked, and he's a little reluctant. So I tell him, because, he's part of it. He doesn't want to give up to him. He's a little reluctant. So I tell him, if you do this, I'll give you 2 bars. He's still reluctant. And I look at him, and I see chocolate all in his beard and shit, and it's on his shirt. So I know he's going to break in a minute. So I promised him 3 bars a day if he does this. So in that moment, it kind of hit me that, damn, I'm going to be preying on some people. At 8 years old, I'm going to be preying on some people weaker than me in order to get what I want. And the only thing I could hear in my head was, do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go for it. So he and I devised this plan where I would come after school, and he would point out the people that were weak. Not people who had been there for a while, but weak people. And we had this little thing. He would say, I love pigeons. And I would say, pigeons are cool, but they're not my favorite bird. And if he was with that person, that was the pigeon. That was the mark. So, they would ask for chocolate. He had already had a little bit of chocolate around, giving them a piece, kind of set it up. They'd ask me for chocolate, and I feigned resistance. Like, no, I can't. But then eventually, I just sell to them. And I give them 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars, 5. And it just kind of went on for 2 months. Me trying to get this, trying to break the school record or get close to it in order to get this Nintendo. And I look up after 2 months, and actually, every time I do it, every now and again I get sad because these people were like really broken and they needed chocolate to get through, like they were fighting. But every time I say that, do would enter my head. So I just kept pushing on. So about 2 months in, I look up, and lo and behold, I've sold over 2,000 bars of chocolate. I've sold 2,200 something. This is minus the 180 my uncle had taken. So I get to school, and I don't have enough for just 1 Nintendo. I have enough for 2. So I'm living lovely. Like, I got a Nintendo at my grandmother's house. I got a Nintendo at my house, and I'm just sunning people. I'm like, yeah, I got Nintendo what? Y'all can come over and play my game, but you got to go back. Whatever. I didn't care. I was just, strong with power, right? And I was good. And it always kind of lurked with me that I was preying on people, but I didn't give a damn. I had sold 2,248 bars of candy. It was the most ever. So I broke the record at the school. I walked away with 2 NESs, but I felt good about it because 2. 1 for my grandmother's, 1 for me, right? I felt kind of but I got through it because I was happy. Then my uncle told me that this dude named Clyde was my best customer, so maybe I was a pusher. Clyde had gone into diabetic coma from the chocolate. He had bought 15 boxes of chocolate over the course of 2 months, and each box had 30 bars in it. So that's over anywhere from 450 to 500 bars he had consumed in 60 days. His family couldn't figure out how. He was so good on his diet, but I knew how, and it hurt me. Because, I was part of his demise. I mean, he eventually came out of it, but he was in a coma. And part of me is saying maybe that's why I do the work now, because it just sat with me. So I ended up just trying to get better, trying to feel better. I gave 1 of my Nintendos to what is it, Goodwill, Goodwill kind of thing. I gave another to a family down the block that didn't have them. And my family was baffled. They didn't know why. But I couldn't get away from the fact that I had, put this guy in a coma. And maybe that's why I work with, like, health and nutrition now, just trying to make amends for. But still, every now and again, when I hear that little do-do-do-do-do-do, I feel like a piece of shit. Thank you.
James Bell, ladies and gentlemen.